Hello, readers of Every Word, and welcome to Every Word 365. I'm your host, Christina Madsen. Today we are reading Leviticus 24 through 27. Congrats on making it through Leviticus. Even if you have some paperclip sections so far, that's okay. You just survived some very tough stuff. So, a couple of thoughts as we wrap up Leviticus. Before I was a believer, one of the ways I would challenge Christianity was with the phrase, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, which we have seen twice so far in our readings. The former me, before I was a Christ follower, liked to claim that it was in stark contrast, and therefore contradictory, of what Jesus taught, which is turn the other cheek. I now want to tell that former me, practically everything about Jesus was in stark contrast to the Old Testament. That's why it was so difficult for everyone to wrap their brains around what he was saying. That's why, in part, they hated him and eventually had him killed. Doesn't mean it's contradictory. It means we live under a new covenant and not the old. Again, he did not come to abolish the law. He came to fulfill it. So, of course, I'm including more in a really good Got Questions link about that saying, an eye for an eye. In chapter 26, we read about blessings for obedience and punishments for disobedience. Was this hard for anyone else to read? I think we all enjoy the idea of the blessings part, but the punishment part, not so much. And I wish I could tell you that the punishment stuff was an Old Testament thing and not something we have to worry about in the New Testament. But gosh, that's just not the case. And so I am including a link that I've actually shared before. It's on the wrath of God, and it is from Got Questions. So much of this is about our trust in a just God. And that's why it's hard to give this Bible a lot of credence, this book, if you're not a Christ follower, because you have to have that faith and trust that he is just. And that can be something that we all struggle with. So, no, we don't have to follow all those Old Testament laws. Can I get an amen? But we are to still obey God's commands. And it is my hope that as we continue to read those commands and how we obey them will become more clear, which is why it's so important to hang with us until we get to the New Testament, which isn't until, do you remember? October 1st, by the way. So hang with us. I know that seems like a long time, but you've got to get to the New Testament with us. And from today's daily walk, would you have faith to do what God required of Israel? Did anyone else think about the year 2020 when reading about leaving the land unplanted for an entire year? Many people weren't able to do their livelihoods during the pandemic. Talk about a great test of our trust in God. I know it was a very hard time for a lot of people, but I think this would be a very hard time for the Israelites and all that we're reading about them. So tomorrow we start Numbers, chapters 1 through 4, which is just that, a lot of talk about numbers. Imagine that. Happy reading. This episode is made possible in part by Arkansas Filter. Arkansas Filter has been serving the state of Arkansas for more than 40 years. They sell and service a full suite of commercial, industrial, and residential filters. They are also one of the largest suppliers of UV lights, Gates belts, and HVAC chemicals and cleaners. They partner with HVAC and engineering firms to provide a variety of services and pride themselves on customer service both during and after the sale. For more information, head to their website, arkansasfilter.net, and of course, we've included a link in the podcast description.